Hey you folks, Quill18 here, and welcome to the long-awaited return of City Skylines! I'm going to be playing the Snowfall expansion. I was lucky enough to get a review copy a couple of days before release, so we're going to dive right in and make a winter wonderland slash hellscape, depending on exactly what your interpretation of snow is. As someone who lives in northern Canada, snow sucks, and I hate it, and I can't believe I'm going to be playing a game that features it so heavily. Right before we start, a lot of people are going to be asking for the mods. I know that's the case. I'm not going to go and list them all here, but you can go ahead and pause as I just sort of go through, and you can see the list of mods that are listed, and then you can go and find them. They're all from the workshop over here. There you go. There you go. There's also a couple of assets, these recycling centers and the large clarifier might come into play. So there you go. Those are all the things that you may care about there, and you can pause if you want to look those up on the workshop for yourself. But let's go ahead and start a new game. So if you don't know, the way Snowfall works is it is a complete map theme. So you either are playing without snow, although there's still going to be new mechanics like the trams, for example, or you are going to be playing in a permanent winter, and I believe it's just these three maps over here: the snowy coast, the icy islands, and the frosty rivers. I'm kind of tempted to play on these icy islands. I don't know, I like these little individual areas. It does tend to make the traffic a hell of a lot more problematic, and I'm worried it might be a little too much like our Venice Let's Play, actually, now that I think about it. Maybe this one, actually. It's got a few islands, it's broken up a bit, but it's got these big, wide rivers. That is really great. And I'm going to call this, Kanakistan. There we go, Kanakistan. Excellent. So we got a bit of a balance of different things. Base theme is winter, as you can see. We'll get it started. And I haven't actually played with this map, so we're going to look around and see exactly what our landscape is. I'm tempted. I keep wanting to do this, and I don't know if this is going to be the map for it, but I keep wanting to do a thing where basically the map is actually, instead of being one big city, it's a bunch of tiny little communities that are linked to one another. That being said, I think if we do that, we might not be able to show off the tram lines that well. But I suppose we could have one sort of central city going on. So we've got our entrance over here. Map looking very frosty. Pretty little trees, actually, with the mountains in the background. It's actually really lovely scene like this. And I do like how this looks during the day, during the night especially. When you've got your city going on, you've got all your lights, there's a bit of a haze. It actually looks really nice. There's a aurora borealis that happens in the skies as well. We can already see just a little bit of snow on the roads over here. A couple of bare patches here and there. But if we check the new snow overlay, and oh, there should be two buttons here. Maybe it changed from when I did the preview. Coverage is low. Okay, well, maybe we're fine now. So I don't think, I mean, there's no snow on the road yet. There's a new temperature icon down here. The lower the temperature, the more heating the city will need. So the big new features here are the fact that when it snows, the roads get covered and you've got to plow them. That the colder it gets, the more heating your people need. By default, they'll use just more electricity to heat their homes, but you can also supply them with sort of like hot water pipes, geothermal energy that they can use to heat their home as opposed to using more electricity, which should save you a little bit of money, but does require a bit more of an investment up front. Tram lines are another really big change. So in the public transit over here, we've got trams over here, which work, I don't know, in a sense a little bit like buses, but they operate on their own little tram lanes. They have to, they need special roads to go on these things. Yes, thank you. But they often have their own lanes as well. So anyway, and they look lovely. So let's take a look at the landscape here. It's hard to zoom all the way out right now because we haven't bought any tiles. Now with everything unlocked, because every milestone that you unlock does give you a bonus to start us off with a little bit more money, but we're going to go through it really fast because with everything unlocked, we are going to need police stations, hospitals, schools, etc. unlocked right from the very start. There's going to be demand for that. So I mean, I think it feels pretty natural to just go and develop this little, I don't know, I can't zoom out any more than this right now, but this little sort of peninsula, it might be an island, but expect that as a whole. In fact, I quite like the idea of unlocking these tiles early because it'll stop me from sort of building in sort of a square-ish fashion, right, where we go right up to the border, and that would look kind of dumb. So I'll do this. Okay, I can't overspend it too much, but it'll get it started. And that'll be fine. So let's go ahead and pop back down to this area. We can actually take a little bit more of a look. Okay, it is sort of a peninsula. I think it just keeps going right to the edge over here. Still, it's going to be a good amount of place to get started on right away. So do we want to build on a grid? Do we want nice sort of like sweepy lines? I think I'm actually going to leave a lot of space here. I'm actually going to try to avoid going with a very dense setup and try to have a lot of space for people and just be a little bit, I mean, it's not really going to be rural, but we're not going to go for a mega urban setup this time. I think that'll fit a little bit more. I'm thinking sort of like small town, Northern Ontario, Canada kind of feel like that. A lot of low density housing, a fair amount of spacing in between. That does imply really bad public transit, which is what really a lot of the small towns in North America in general are like, because they don't have the population density to really make public transit make sense. But we are going to try to have an area at the very least serviced by trams because we want to show that off. So, do I want to continue these highways? Thematically, I don't think the highways really fit with the whole sort of small towniness, right? And I think that's true. Now, I went with a non-highway build pretty heavily on the Venice map, which was, again, a really big challenge, but Venice was also quite a bit denser, and we might not do that. I mean, I could just go and put in an avenue right away and just bust down on that. Hey, what? Let's do something. Let's put down another lane of things first. Let's go. We'll use a 6-lane with the bus lanes to start off with. It's maybe a little bit bigger than I'm looking for. But let's run it sort of around the edge of the peninsula a fair bit. We got to be careful because this can get really expensive really fast. And we'll need to pay for a lot of public services early on. We'll make a sort of a ring road here, which isn't a highway, which means there's a limit to exactly what kind of transportation capacity it can handle. We'll go here, then page up, and just bridge across, and then page down. We are spending a fair amount of money. Okay, not as much as I was afraid of. Page up. Come on. You can do it. I know you can. You always end up with a little, well, you don't always, but it's very hard to avoid any kind of kink over here, which is always a little disappointing. Yeah. See, now we're spending extra money. But it's just really hard to get exactly the right angle. We're gonna have to call that one good enough. All right, so a ring road kind of like this. That does mean over here we could do another interchange, and that's probably going to be a very good idea. But for now, I'll just have the one. And what I think I'm going to do, even though I know I'm intentionally doing this, it's not a very efficient connection. We're just going to do this, where we have these roads come in like that. Oops. We should be able to get both. Maybe not with this angle. We should be able to do it. And we gotta come out a little bit more, do we? I guess I'll have it come out over here. There we go. There we are. Oh, it doesn't create any traffic lights, though. So that much is good. It's a very simple little setup, but we'll have to try to make it do. So that's the sort of idea I'm going for. Not using very much of the actual highway that much. We will, you know what, I'm going to go and put in a lightweight interchange here. This is not something that handles a whole lot of traffic. It's actually a really, really bad design, this diamond interchange. And the reason it's really bad is because anyone who is, say, going north on this road, who wants to go west over here, has to come off over here, wait at this traffic light, then make a left, and so you end up with a bit of a bottleneck there. We'll probably replace it with something later on, but for now, it's going to be fine. So then we have to decide, like, where do we want our housing? Where do we want our industry? I guess we can take a look at our resources map mode right now. Our natural resources, we've got fertile land. Oh, and that's it. The oil's over here, the ore is over here, so we have nothing in the area. Now, do we do farming in the winter? Doesn't feel right, does it? I mean, in an area of permanent winter, the farming, I mean, it would be great if it was just ranching, just all caribou ranches. But I don't think that's going to be the case. It is always nice to build industrial areas on the shore, even though, you know, that seems like the sort of place that should be the nicest place for people to live, just because of the cargo harbor. Okay. Just checking angles over here. Because, yes, he can't connect to route, but over here. So we can't do any industry down here if we want to take advantage of the cargo harbor, which is too bad because, in a sense, this is some of the prettiest area over here. But I think what we may have to do is decide that, I don't know, this right side over here is a little bit more industrial. Where's the train tracks? There are some on this map. This is the train over here. Because a train's another great way to get cargo in and out. But there's not really any of it on this main hunk of rock. Oh, down to the south over here. Well, we could run it from here all the way up here. Okay, we're going to build an industrial area in this end of things. And it is just going to be regular industry. Not particularly pretty, but it should be okay. Let's go and, whoops, bring us down to the 4 lanes. Still going to use bus lanes, because we will try to incorporate some of that. And I'm going to break off a section from here that's going to be servicing our industrial area. Let me go ahead and make an angle and just run this along here. And you know what? We'll have it loop around this way, and then, yeah, just come out there. That's going to be okay. Well, we'll build the harbor later on. We aren't going to have the money to support anything like that quite yet. So we're going to try to minimize how many intersections are on our main sort of road over here. And if possible, make these T intersections, because that makes the traffic a little bit less complicated. Do I want to use trees? Do I want to use the version with bike lanes? I don't know exactly how much biking you do in the industrial area. But it would be a nice habit to get started. Plus, then we can pass the ordinance that allows you to encourage biking. We still might want to make a quad lane here. It's actually still pretty significant. You know what? Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to cut you apart like this. There you go. And then we're going to switch to... Do I want to make it square? Do I want curlies? I think what I want, actually, in here is just... And again, we're going to look to leave some space. Something a bit more like that. And this can be a 4-way intersection. It's not going to be too bad. And then we can plant lots of trees in between. There we are. Something like that. And this whole area is going to be industrial. I think what I'll do is I'll just pull back here. Now, one of the downsides to using curved roads, of course... Oh, you can't just hold... Can you hold the right mouse button to bulk D-zone? Oh, that's a bit annoying. I don't think I realized that. We actually might still want things on this road. I don't know. I'm probably overbuilding it. They're actually going to come in kind of slowly, and it's going to be hard to get all the power connected everywhere. But, you know, that's okay. We'll make a big sort of bulk paint job over here. That's going to be okay. And then... Where do you want people to live? It would be nice, like, I want space. I want to feel like there are sort of distinct neighborhoods. I'm going to make it downtown over here. This is where people come off the highway. And this is where I want to feel like we've got a bit of a shopping district. I'm trying to decide if it's a good idea to put an intersection over here. It might lead to a lot of traffic off the highway. Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, because there's going to be a lot of traffic coming off here, and if we put another intersection there, on the other hand, here, it's just going to be an overly busy intersection. I think it's probably okay. So we're going to have it come out kind of straight like that. And we'll probably want another connection over here, but what I want to try to avoid is making this a shortcut to over there. So, actually, let's make a bit of a T here. And then we'll make this end connect over to that. That way, no one should drive through here to get anywhere. It's not going to be a shortcut in any useful way whatsoever. And then we can switch over to the smaller lanes here and just branch this off this way. Maybe a little further. And then we'll get the little local streets at that point with the bike lanes and everything. The idea is to continuously subdivide your traffic as much as possible. That's the sort of real-life design, but it also sort of looks good, and will definitely minimize traffic a fair bit in here. I wonder if I can... I didn't really set up the space quite for this, but I should be able to get... It's not exactly a roundabout. Oh man, it's actually really hard to see the little blue guidelines on the white map here. So it's not a roundabout, it's like a crescent going on over here. And I wish you could sort of prioritize what gets built where, but we're going to try to actually avoid building on this main road for most things. Things like police stations might be a good idea, but other than that, we really want to reduce how much traffic might be stopping the flow of cars on the main roads over here. So we've got that. And then I think what we're going to do, I might just use the square tool for this. And just split off sort of over here. And again, I'm not looking for full density. I'm intentionally one to have a lot of extra space just kicking around. I'm going to try to avoid overlap over here. Maybe a little further. Something like that. I mean, there is room for another neighborhood in there, although it's a little bit tricksy. Maybe something like that. There we go. That'll be pretty decent. And then over here, like that. And then we can use the tree brush tool to plant a ton of stuff in here and just have it look really, really nice. I think here, we might go and make a bit of a square neighborhood, but it's not so bad. Oh, we could have something come off at an angle over here. And it'll cause a little bit of overlap bits. But that's not too bad. If we do want more density, we could do something like this, which still leaves us room for greenery. I like that. And then we'll leave the empty bits there. And again, it might be nice if there's a connection from here to there, but we want to avoid designing it in a way that people would drive through the neighborhood. But they wouldn't, because they would have to take the long way around, so that's going to be okay. And it's okay that this connects. Alright, you know what? That's going to be great. Let's continue our avenue here. We'll have it come off and curve over this way, just to give us a little bit more space over here. There you go. So no one's going to drive through this on the way to anything else, which is what's going to be really important here, because you only want local traffic whenever possible. Now, we'll still end up with horrible traffic jams because, you know, that's the nature of the game. And that's just the nature of urban design. Like, my city is the worst. It's got the worst. It's basically, like, the main core of my city is laid out in one big square with effectively just 4-lane avenues that run like a giant square around the city. And every day, at the start of the workday and the end of the workday, it's completely full, 100% congested, and it sucks. It's not even big town. My town has a population of like 150,000 people, and it's really quite spread out, actually. And yet, the civil engineers that designed the city, you know, organically over the last 100 years of just, you know, just generic growth as people move into this area, just ended up with a garbage layout. And everything is super spread out, so we have like no good public transit. We technically have buses, but they're miserable. They don't run very often, and because again, everyone's got a car, and since everyone's got a car, the city doesn't get designed for pedestrians or public transit. Therefore, everyone has to get a car, and therefore it keeps perpetuating. We have no bike lanes anywhere, no metro, no trams, terrible buses, and there's not even really train service to any other towns either. Which is one of the things, like, Europeans, you are so lucky. You have no idea how nice things are for you that way. So I'm trying to figure out, like, where do we want to lay out, like, the commercial districts? It feels, one of the things in City Skylines is you don't really make your commercial districts like a sort of downtown or high street. There's not really an advantage, as far as I can tell, to zoning that way. It helps actually to have proximity to people's houses, which I guess always makes sense with sort of corner stores or your local shops. But one of the reasons that commercial districts, high streets, those types of things, why you tend to have a lot of shops clustered together in one area, is because in real life, it's very convenient. When people go shopping, they normally want to do more than one thing at a time, right? They do their shopping for the day. They're like, okay, I'm going to go to the butcher, then I'm going to go to the electronics shop and get a new battery for my phone, or I don't know what the hell, and so on and so forth. And so you can just go to one area and you can run all your errands. And I don't think that the Sims in these games really work that way. And in fact, it might be better to just spread out your commercial area a fair bit to minimize how far people have to go to get any of their shopping done at any given time. I mean, thematically, we'll still end up sort of having grouped up commercial areas. One thing that is nice with it is commercial areas do need a lot of goods shipped to them, either from outside of town or from an industrial district. So it does make sense for them to be very easily accessible for that, which as a result, we're still going to end up clustering them a bit more along these main avenues. So I'm going to start with low density. We might high density this stuff later on, but for now, high density would be a little bit unuseful. What is going on? Oh, it's because it's that bit which is connected over there. Okay. Yes, and yes, unuseful. I should get rid of that too. We'll probably end up putting police stations or something on these corners. We're going to do that, but then I'm also going to go and get a little bit of local shopping here and here. And that's going to make me feel a little bit better. And then maybe a local shop over there as well. That's all going to be residential soon. And then probably more commercial along here. The low-density commercial really doesn't make much in the way of noise, so it shouldn't bother the residences too much. That might be a little more than we need. We might put in some more offices here. And obviously, one of the issues that's going to happen as soon as we turn it on, getting the power to all these places is actually going to be kind of a pain in the butt, because things are going to pop up semi-randomly, and we might need to run some power cables. So I'm not going to fill in all the areas. We're going to hope that we can encourage power to flow a little bit, and we'll see what we can do. Maybe go ahead and do that, because that might connect these two areas. Alright, so that's the sort of starting layout. I mean, we might fill in more of this, but in most towns, the industrial area really is not connected to where people live and shop. It tends to be a little further away, and especially with the pollution, we'll try to do that. I don't know how successful we'll be, but we're going to give that a go. We do have too much industry right now, and in fact, I'm going to go just to encourage the industry to pop up in the same sort of area, which again will make the power distribution easier. Plus, we won't have to run as many water lines to start off with. I'm going to do that just to trim things down. Oops, that's not the button I want. There we go. Just to trim things down and make things a little bit more manageable. Okay, now, speaking of power and water, what are we going to do for that? Well, first thing I'm going to do is tell you that, oh, there's new categories set up here, and the mods don't quite work. I have a couple of modded things here, and with these new categories that were added because of the heating system, it's got a kind of a funny name here, the default category. Okay, I guess everything, all the actual Colossal Order stuff, the official stuff, has been grouped into services and heating, and everything else is still stuck in the default category. But it's nice that we can make more tabs. Hopefully the mods will do something cool with that. But I really like this large clarifier. This clarifier here, this is a very realistic way for handling sewage. These are sewage treatment plants, basically. Things they get filtered, they get processed with a few chemicals, and then they get put in these sort of, are they like sediment ponds or something like that, to help separate things a little bit more. And what you end up with in the end is you end up with clean water, which is really the sort of stuff that you want to dump into the ocean and nothing before that, right? It's a little bit like we have these water treatment plants, and again, they have those, oh right, I have to put it on the water's edge. They have those sort of pools going on here. Well, this is a modded one that basically does the same thing, but in the end, it doesn't, make poop water, which makes me really happy. What's the cost? So we've got 3,500 and 240 per week. If we compare this thing here, this is a lot more expensive. It does 160,000 cubic meters per week versus 25,000. So yeah, the large clarifier does a lot less water than the other one, but does not result in poop water. And while the poop water and the poop must flow is always really funny, in this case we are going to leave it out. Now I can't put it in the industrial area because ground pollution, even though it doesn't really make sense, I think it's because of the way they had to implement this, ground pollution will go and result in polluted water. So we can't have it near our industrial area. So I'm actually going to build it closer to over here. This is water that is not going to be near the industrial area because I'm not talking about developing this industrially. So we're going to make a little bit of a sewer treatment area over here. We can probably use the cheapest roads. And it's worth noting, I don't have to be on the water's edge to make this work. I'm mostly just putting it on the water's edge because it feels more correct to do it this way. You know, usually these things are closer to the water. So yeah, the only thing these things produce is a little bit of noise pollution. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to drop one of these in here now. To start off with, this should be more than enough sewage treatment and water for the entire thing. It does produce water. It doesn't produce very much water because it's mostly just producing whatever it cleaned. We're still going to have regular water pipes, but we shouldn't need any sewage dumping at all, hopefully. So speaking of water pipes, let's go ahead and get those running over here. I'm going to run it, say, this way, and then that way, and then I'm going to go ahead and go for this sort of efficient layout, which if you go 440, sometimes 480, but 440 guarantees that you get perfect coverage with nothing missed, and very minimal overlap. Like that. And then, I mean, we could just follow the grid pattern the entire way, but I'll go ahead and turn it this way. I mean, you could literally just do the entire map to start off with. Now, how much money we've got? Okay, still enough money, which is good. We still have to build a power source and run some power lines. And we will need to build police hospital for sure to prevent horrible problems, because with everything unlocked, you need to start getting that stuff right from day one. This is going to miss a spot, but that's all right. Come on, snap. There it is. And then we'll continue things afterwards. Okay, that's going to be good enough. So, power to start off with. I kind of, in a sense, I kind of want to avoid the wind turbine. I mean, everyone knows the wind turbine and the advanced wind turbine are the most cost-effective, just awesome thing you can do. Although it looks like there's a great spot for a little wind park over here. Yeah, the full 8 megawatts. Maybe I'll build a little bit of a wind park here, but maybe I won't do the advanced wind turbines. And later on, we will get oil or coal power plants or nuclear power plants or solar or some damn thing. So there's noise pollution over here, but, oh, 7, 8. There we go. Let me go and build a bit of a row of these. It's easier if you look down. Oh, we're at 7 megawatts again. Can I get an 8? Because the maximum cost efficiency is if you make sure you've always got the 8. So we won't get a perfect structure here, because I want the 8 megawatts more than anything else. I know for sure we're going to have to run a power line in general. And we're going to need one there. I'm going to let the game start in a moment, and what's going to happen, we're going to wait for some of these things to pop up, and then we'll put down the power lines. I guess I could put down some of the healthcare right away. We don't need the hospital yet. We don't need that amount. But I'm going to use this strip here as my services strip. Hospital. Crematorium. What is this thing? Ooh, a sauna! Sauna is a healthcare facility where people come to bathe in hot, steamy rooms. Towels are optional. Saunas create a health bonus to the neighborhood around them and increase happiness. Lovely. Well, we'll definitely use some of those later on. Let's get a fire station and a low-end police station. We don't need to do a prison quite yet. We will also need at least a fire station and police station over here. I'll go and get them centralized. Fire station in particular. There's a lot of fires in the industrial area. And yeah, I'm gonna start the game because I'm gonna want some of the buildings to pop in. We'll see where they pop in, and then we'll run some cables to be able to reach there. There we go. We'll do that. and that. Okay. And we got lots of power right now. We got lots of water stuff. Again, we will need water pumps, and we're going to need a lot of these clarifiers. They do not process that much water compared to the default ones, but they don't lead to things being brown, which is nice and lovely. We can put in some parks here too, which is always a great way to spread the electrical stuff, because, you know, if there's a gap, you just put a park in the gap. And we are going to want some parks here for sure. So Kanakistan, we are losing a lot of money right now. It's because we're paying for all the freaking police stations and power and hospital. No schools yet, but we are paying for all of these things already. And we don't have a tax base yet, so we're going to lose a lot of money. When you do start with everything unlocked, you want to make sure that you really don't overspend. You got to keep a lot in the bank. Otherwise, you're going to have a really bad day. Because it takes a while for people to move into your city. Then go over here, and then we do have the little interchange here. This is fine as long as there's really little traffic, because this traffic, that interchange will quickly start to bog down. So we did zone the industry over here. There's not a need yet, because I think people hadn't really moved in quite yet, but they'll get there. And there we go. Okay, well, we're going to put a cut in here. We've got our basic starting point, and it'll be interesting to see how it develops. But I'm going to try to keep doing this where we've got a lot of space. And what I can do is use, what do we have here? Conifer. Is use the tree brush. This is a mod that lets you paint things down, and it really does not cost much money, right? Yeah. It's a little bit of a cheat in a sense that normally placing individual trees... Oh my god, I don't have garbage collection. Placing individual trees is very expensive, but, you know, it's pretty, so therefore I'm going to do that. Garbage collection. Let's get you down. We'll go with an incineration plant right away. That'll actually generate a fair amount of power. And we're going to get you right on this main street here. There you go, and you're connected to the grid, which will also give you more power. We're already low on power. Look at this. How's my electricity production is really low. Damn. All right. Well, the incineration will help, but only once it starts to get garbage. Oh! What happened to our wind power? It changed. It changed. Wind patterns are going to modify. Okay, so we're going to want a more dependable power source than this. And what's more dependable than, I don't know, some oil. This is going to be a bit overkill and very expensive to start off with. But we're going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to put it on this main street so it can maybe more reliably get its oil shipments. There'll be lots of power. It's, again, very expensive. We really need to increase our town's population. We can boost the growth quite a bit if we do make sure to get some schools. I got to make sure to put a cut in here. Here. Yes. Here. This, we're going to need more than one of these elementary schools at some point just for coverage. I mean, right now, it'll have enough for the population, but it won't quite be able to reach. I mean, it mostly reaches, but some people aren't going to be happy. So yeah, let's plan ahead and assume we're going to need one here and then another one here later on. But for now, we'll get one school. That will help to encourage more people to move in a little bit faster. Oh, we got some snowman parks. Excellent. Let's get that right next to the school. I think that'll be lovely. Right over there. And then we'll also want... Oh, what do we have here? A skating rink. Not a bad radius. Let's get you a little bit more centralized here. By leaving these gaps in here too, we actually don't have to worry about bulldozing any houses on the other side either. Alright, so we're going to put a cut in here. Thank you very much for watching this new series. As always, with episode 1 of a new series, likes, favorites, shares, and all those things become that much more important. So really appreciate it if you drop one of those in this first video. I don't normally ask, but the first videos are awesome. And if you haven't done it already, do make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.